My name's Sam Baker. I'm a single 33-year-old man, working for a medical equipment manufacturer. I've just moved back to the head office from our regional branch after 10 years. My boss, Director Johnson, was very happy to welcome me back. Sam, congratulations on returning to the head office. Today's on me. Drink as much as you want, he said, patting me on the shoulder with a beer mug in his hand. He invited me out for a drink, partly to celebrate my return to the head office. Thank you, but the fact I didn't let myself get down and worked hard in the regional office is also thanks to you, Director. This wasn't mere flattery, but a simple fact. About a year after I started working at this company, the then director ordered me to suddenly start working at the regional branch. Back then, Mr. Johnson was just a manager. It seemed the director at that time didn't like me because I was too quiet and boring. That's why I ended up being sent to the regional office, which was just short on staff. I was afraid I might never be able to return to the head office. Mr. Johnson, seeing my anxiety, reassured me with kind words. Believe it or not, I was also sent to the regional office from the head office in the past. I was depressed at first, thinking I had been driven out because I was unnecessary here. But you know what? It was the results I produced there that got me to where I am today. I want you to believe that this personnel change isn't a demotion. It's a personnel change to rebuild the regional branch. I need your help, Sam. So don't get discouraged. Just do your best at the regional branch for now. His words were more encouraging than I could ever explain. I was disheartened when the personnel change was announced, but thanks to Johnson, I was able to face forward and push on. Even after I moved to the regional branch, I sought advice from Director Johnson and pushed myself harder. As a result, the branch's performance greatly improved, and now, I'm finally back at the head office. Since the previous director has also been transferred to another department, I'll start afresh and work hard at the head office. While we were happily chatting about our reunion, Johnson suddenly said something unexpected. Sam, would you consider having a dinner date with my daughter, if you're okay with it? Wait, your daughter? The moment I heard the word dinner date, I froze. Truth is, I've never had a girlfriend in my life. I appreciate the offer, but as you know, Director, I'm not exactly a social butterfly. I've never even had a relationship with a woman. I'm afraid your daughter might find me unsuitable. But Mr. Johnson gently reassured me. That's not true at all. Compared to 10 years ago, Sam, you're a completely different person. You've grown through your struggles in the regional branch, and you communicate smoothly now. I highly value that part of you. That's what I thought of introducing you to my daughter, and I believe you two would be compatible in terms of personality. It's just a casual dinner to meet each other, so don't worry. I had no idea that Mr. Johnson thought so highly of me. I was moved by his words and ended up accepting his invitation for a dinner date. Mr. Johnson showed me a photo of his daughter on his phone, and she was stunningly beautiful, but after the drinks were over and I was on my way home, I was already regretting my decision. I can't possibly handle a relationship. I never shared this with my boss, but I actually have a traumatic experience related to romance. Let's go back in time, 16 years ago. When I was 17, my mom ran off with her lover to some faraway place. The shock of my mom's disappearance hit me hard, but the bad news didn't stop there. My dad, angry and feeling betrayed by my mom, started taking it out on me. Your mother left us because she couldn't stand you. You'll live a lonely life, unloved by anyone. He ranted, drowning his sorrows in booze. I think seeing my face, which resembled my mother's, must have pissed him off. I didn't have any notable skills or talents. Perhaps I lacked the charm as a child to keep my mom from leaving my dad. His harsh words hurt me deeply, and my introverted personality grew stronger. From then on, my dad's drinking got worse. He left all the house chores to me, and he'd quickly resort to violence when something displeased him. I had to do all the housework perfectly to avoid my father's anger, and before I knew it, I started being late to school more frequently. Constant tardiness, a destructive home environment, and the negative aura surrounding me led me to isolate myself from everyone around me. I started to feel uncomfortable in my own class and began to seek refuge in the school nurse's office. The school nurse, Ms. Miller, was very kind and would always listen attentively to my stories. Although I couldn't share everything considering my father's situation, the mere presence of Ms. Miller, who would lend me her time and ears, was a relief to me. You can tell me anything that's bothering you. Regarding your studies, it's for your own good that you should strive to pass your courses. Once you can stand on your own, you'll be able to get away from your father sooner. And she was absolutely right. If I kept this up, I wouldn't be able to graduate. So, I committed myself to attend all my classes, and I spent the rest of my time seeking refuge in the nurse's office. I started to get a handle on my house chores and stopped being late, narrowly avoiding repeating a year. Amidst this lifestyle, another reason emerged for me to frequent the nurse's office. There was another student, a girl, who also spent time there, and I quietly looked forward to my interactions with her. Her name was Emily Brown, and she was a grade below me. "Good morning, Sam." She'd greet me with a smile every morning I visited the nurse's office. I was happy to see her, so I always smiled back and replied, "Good morning." Emily often said, "I'm basically homeschooled in the nurse's office." She rarely went to her actual class, spending most of her day in the nurse's office instead. This was due to Emily's appearance. She always wore a wrinkled uniform, hid her face behind long bangs, and had a simple style with her long hair tied back. Because of this, Emily was often called unkempt and was generally avoided by everyone else. However, it wasn't that Emily was lazy. The root of the issue lay in her home environment. Her parents favored her older sister and were always harsh towards Emily. Because of this, she seldom got new clothes or everyday essentials, and she couldn't afford to go to a hair salon, hence her appearance. Despite all of this, I thought Emily was a wonderful girl. I borrowed a really interesting book from the library yesterday. "It's such a blessing to have these wonderful books available to us," she'd say with a smile. Seeing Emily speak like this gave me a boost of energy. Despite being placed in a seemingly insurmountable situation, she always maintained a positive attitude, constantly looking for things to enjoy. While everyone else was focusing on Emily's appearance, I noticed her beautiful eyes peeking from behind her long bangs. Clear and beautiful light brown eyes. My heart pounded every time I saw that sparkle, and our conversations became my solace as I barely survived my harsh school life. Looking back now, I guess that was my first love. But despite my feelings, one day, suddenly, Emily disappeared. She had transferred schools without saying a word. When I asked the teachers about her disappearance, due to privacy reasons, they couldn't tell me anything. I thought of her as a companion, someone who used to visit the school nurse with me. I never expected such a sudden farewell. Just like when my mother suddenly disappeared, everyone seems to leave me behind. After that, I somehow managed to graduate high school, and with the help of scholarships, I moved on to a distant university. That's how I finally got away from my father. But no matter how much time passed, since Emily's departure, I had never fallen in love with anyone else. I couldn't forget about Emily, and the fear of getting hurt kept me from entering into any romantic relationship. Therefore, I felt sorry for my boss, but I wasn't sure the dinner date he set up for me would go well. On the day of the dinner date, at the private room of the restaurant where we agreed to meet, a woman more beautiful than the one I saw on my boss's cell phone appeared, and I was taken aback. "Nice to meet you, I'm Emily." The boss's daughter introduced herself, bowing politely. "Nice to meet you, I hope we have a good day today." Emily, with her beautiful fair skin, was elegantly dressed in a monochrome dress. As her smooth chestnut hair swayed, radiating a lovely aura, my heart raced. I felt an uncanny connection knowing her name was Emily. Apparently, I seemed to have a strong connection to that name. The dinner date was nerve-wracking, but since we both loved reading, the conversation flowed better than I expected. "Sam, you like reading too. I often visit the library on my days off." "Really? Any recent book recommendations?" When I asked, Emily gave a clear explanation about her recommended books. Seeing her talk so passionately, and with a smile, I was taken in by her charm. Who knew I could enjoy such a pleasant time with a woman? However, at some point, Emily suddenly fell silent, with a cryptic look on her face. Did I say something wrong? Feeling uneasy, I asked, "Is something wrong?" She fixed her gaze on me and said, "Good heavens, it's time you noticed." Saying this, she lifted the sleeve of her dress, revealing a bracelet made of black gemstones. The moment I saw that bracelet, I let out a small laugh, as a memory from 16 years ago came flooding back. That day, I headed to the school's nurse's office as usual during lunch break. The nurse, Ms. Miller, must have gone to the restroom because her seat was empty, and there was no one in the office. However, at that moment, a gust of wind blew in from the window, causing the curtains on the infirmary bed to flutter, and I witnessed an astonishing sight. What? Through the gap in the curtains, I saw Emily on the bed, holding a large number of Blackpool-like objects in her hand. She was staring intently at the pills on the table attached to the bed. Was she planning to swallow those? No matter what medication it was, consuming it all at once would surely harm her health. Emily, unable to stay still, I barged through the curtain and rushed to the bed. "Sam, what's going on?" Surprised at my sudden appearance, I grabbed Emily's shoulders and blurted out, "Don't jump the gun. We're still young. No matter how hard things are now, if we keep living, good things will happen. I don't want you to disappear, Emily." As I said this, I realized that I was crying. I didn't want to lose Emily. My emotions were so strong that I naturally burst into tears. However, in contrast to my panic, Emily was calm. "What on earth are you talking about? I'm just making a bracelet with stones I got from the library's teacher." What? It turned out that the items Emily had were not pearls, but gemstones. Knowing my misunderstanding, Emily laughed out loud. Feeling embarrassed about my overreaction, I blushed. Then, Emily handed me a bracelet with a cheerful smile. "This Morian stone is said to protect from unpleasant things. I already have one, so I'll give one to you, Sam." "Really? Oh, thank you." I never expected to receive a gift from Emily, and I was genuinely happy. "Yes, because you are my important nurse's room buddy, Sam. And don't worry, I'm not going anywhere." Despite saying that, Emily disappeared without a trace. And now, that same Emily is right before my eyes. Unconsciously, my eyes filling with tears, I pulled out a black Morian bracelet from my suit pocket. It's been 16 years since then. I have been wearing it without fail. Before I knew it, my eyes too were moistened, just like her beautiful hazel eyes. I'm sorry for transferring schools so abruptly, but there was a profound reason behind it. According to her, her parents had been violent towards her, and feeling threatened because of their escalated behavior, she had run away from home. Emily's mother's brother was, in fact, Mr. Johnson, who was the director. The two of them were uncle and niece. And Emily had gone to ask for help from her uncle, who lived in the neighboring state. The director, who had always been worried about Emily, thought that he could no longer leave her with her parents, severed ties with his sister, and adopted Emily. And so Emily's last name changed from Brown to Johnson. Hearing about Emily's tragic past, my heart ached. It's understandable why she had to transfer schools abruptly. Emily, wiping her tears, began to speak. "I haven't been able to forget about you since then. So when my father brought me a marriage proposal, I was really surprised. I recognized your unique last name immediately. It was unmistakably you, Sam. I'm honestly so happy. I was a mess in high school, wasn't I? I knew it and I was so embarrassed. That's why I couldn't express my feelings back then. I knew that even someone as kind as you, Sam, couldn't possibly like someone like me." Listening to Emily's words, I was astonished. I couldn't believe she had felt the same way about me. I, too, was in love with Emily, but I always thought that no woman would ever like me. But now, I think I've improved my appearance a bit. So please let me say this, I like you, Sam. Emily, don't belittle yourself like that. I've always loved you. Then and now, to me, you are always beautiful. I had to let her know that, even before she finished her sentence. It wasn't just about loving her now. For me, Emily had always been someone special. Hearing my words, Emily blushed and cried. I could tell that those were not tears of sadness. "Thank you. Despite the hardships I had in high school, I managed to get through those days because of you, Sam." We held each other's hands on the table, waiting for our tears to stop. Everyone seemed to leave me, But Emily kept her promise. She came back to me. I felt deeply that this truth washed away my hurtful past with tears. After a year of dating, we decided to get married. Upon learning that we knew each other from the beginning, Mr. Johnson, the director, was very surprised. I was shocked. I had no idea that you two knew each other, but I am really grateful to you, Sam. Emily was wounded in high school, but thanks to you, she was able to recover. As he spoke, he gazed into the distance, as if reminiscing about the past. My wife and I had some issues, and we couldn't have children. That's also why I've always thought of Emily as my own daughter. Not being able to have children must have been hard for Mr. Johnson at that time. But it was clear to me that he and his wife truly cared for Emily, even though she wasn't their own. Emily said she was truly happy to become your adopted daughter. I believe that the reason she can smile like this now is because of you. When you say that, it makes me happy. I always wanted her to be happy after all the suffering she's been through. But I believe that you will certainly make my daughter happy, Sam. With that, Mr. Johnson blushed and laughed shyly. That's right. By marrying her, I would also become Mr. Johnson's son. With a big smile on my face, I nodded vigorously. Of course, I will start calling you my father-in-law. Ha ha, I can't believe I'm getting a son as well as a daughter. It feels like a dream. It's possible that each of our past experiences might have been dark and sad. Still, it was through irreplaceable encounters that we were able to know the joy of loving and being loved. While savoring such happiness, I looked forward to a future filled with hope.